Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, my name's David. I'm a software engineer based out of Portland, Oregon, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how to become a millionaire. This isn't meant to be clickbait. This isn't like a get rich quick scheme or anything. I just want to show you like the math, the basic math behind how you can invest your money. Really anybody should be able to invest their money and then over the course of their life end up with $1 million of buying power at that age. You'll understand as you watch the video why there's kind of that caveat in there. So I recommend sticking all the way through and not dropping off early. And then you'll notice I have this calculator up over here on the side. This is just a simple compound interest calculator. And I really encourage you to play around with something like this after this video. Apologies in advance. I'm going to be kind of looking off at this calculator as I'm going through the video to illustrate some of these examples. So I want to just quickly explain why I picked these numbers to start with. So this initial deposit is just the lowest they'll let me go. I would have set it at 0 if I could. This contribution is a $250 contribution each month. You'll see in a bit why I chose that number. And then the investment time spans 47 years. So that's like, if you started investing at age 18 through to the standard retirement age in the US of 65, that's going to be 47 years. And then we're just going to start off with a return of 0%, just to kind of illustrate some points as we go through the video here. So you'll notice if we do that, at retirement you would have $141,000. And you'll notice that all these bars here are blue, and those are principal. So that's the money that you have is literally the money that you put in, and there's no additional money that you've made over the course of that period. So we have no interest income from this. And I wanted to highlight that you might look at this and you say, oh, this is the same thing as like stuffing money under the bed or just throwing it into like a bank account with no rate of return. It's actually worse than that because the inflation rate is somewhere between 2 and 3%, and that means your money each year that you don't invest it and make a rate of return on it, and you're actually losing 2 or 3% of your spending power, and that's really adds up over time. So that means your money's just continually losing its value. And that's one reason it's important to invest, just if nothing else, to like hedge or to prevent that from happening. Like you don't want your money to lose its value. That's terrible. So what I'm going to look at here is, we want to do better than that. You could do something very conservative, like put your money in a high interest savings or checking account or buy CDs. But really what most people do over the course of their life to become wealthy is pick some kind of well understood investment, and a really common one is just to invest in the stock market, the overall US stock market, and the numbers around doing that are pretty well understood. So the historic rate of return without factoring in inflation is 10%, but when you factor in that there's the average inflation, then the return drops to about 7%. So the nice thing is if you use this 7% number, the money that you end up with when you retire is going to have buying power that you can understand in today's dollars or frame of reference. So, if you think about like if you invested at 10%, you're going to have way more than $1 million, but it's not going to buy you more than what you would get with like $1 million in today's terms. So the best way to do this is to use the 7% number, the inflation adjusted rate of return. So we'll do that. But before we jump straight to that, I just want to show you like the how much just a little bit of increase in your rate of return is going to make to your ending balance here. So say we just crank this up to, let's just start at like 2%. So if you got a 2% rate of return, you can see now on this graph over here that, well, for one thing, we've got almost $100,000 more, and all we did was get a little bit of a return on our money. But you'll see that you still have the same amount of principal going in. That's what these blue bars are. But now you have these green bars, which are the interest that you're making. And you'll notice that they also don't just go up in a straight line like this blue line. It's exponential. It's going to curve up. And the reason for that is each month or each year or whatever, the percentage of interest you make is going to be the principal plus the previous interest that you made. So that's why it's called compounding, because it just keeps building up on what came before it. So yeah, over time this is just going to kind of curve upwards, and you can see by the time you get to this last year here, like a huge percentage of the money is just coming from the interest, right? It's almost, I don't know, probably it's more than a third. I would guess it's probably somewhere around a third, maybe a little more. And that's just by increasing, the estimated rate of return by 2%. So let's go ahead and just crank it up some more. Let's crank it up, say, to like 5% and see what we get. So at 5%, you can see we've gone from 141,000 in principal to 570,000 essentially. And you'll see most of the worth now is what's come from the interest, not from the principal. And that's why this is so powerful. That's why compound interest is so powerful, because you're making money on your money that you've made as time goes on. And this is also one of the reasons you hear people all the time really encourage younger people to start investing, because the thing you really need for this to work is you need two things. You need regular contributions, or three things, I guess. Regular contributions, you need a lot of time, and you need a good rate of return. So I'm going to go ahead and crank this up. Let's crank this up to the 7%. And now you can see this has grown to $1.1 million. So if you invest $250 a month starting at 18 for every month up until you turn 65, you would have $1.1 million with this, using this rate of return. And I think it's good with any financial planning to be a little bit conservative. So I know technically there's an extra $105,000 or $106,000 here. But there may be times when you can't invest $250 a month for some reason, or maybe the interest rate, the rate of return drops at some point for a while or whatever. And I realize too, there's some things, this is just a simple example, it may be harder when you're younger to invest that $250 a month. Obviously a lot of people are going through college and going, that can last, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever. Just depends on what you're doing and what your specialty is and how advanced of a degree you want to get. But one thing I did want to point out is in those younger years when you're not going to be making as much money, it's even almost more important to make sure that you're setting something aside because the money you invest there is going to have the longest time to accumulate interest on. And in addition to that, most employers, if you're at in a professional role, will match some amount towards your retirement. And this isn't something I really thought was super important when I was younger. I didn't understand the value of it. But if your employer will match anything that you put towards your retirement, you should at least invest that much, because you're basically just like leaving money on the table if you don't do that. And if you do that when you're young, it can make a huge difference. So I would just like to encourage you to look to see if you have those options with your employer. And then in addition to this too, like say for some reason you are in school, maybe you're studying for an advanced degree, maybe you're trying to become get a special business degree, MBA, or maybe you're going to be a doctor or something that requires a lot of years of education, or maybe you were just slow getting through school, or whatever stuff happens. So let's say you cut 10 years off of this and you didn't start investing until you were 28 instead of 18. So you can see the difference that's going to make just cutting those 10 years off. You end up with almost half of the amount of money you would end up with otherwise. But there's good news too. At that point in your career, you should be making more decent money. And so we can just look at what that adjustment would look like that you would have to make. So basically you would have to double the amount of money at this point that you were investing over the course of your career to end up with a similar amount. And, you know, at 28, investing $500 a month, especially if you have an employer match, shouldn't be a stretch, hopefully. And one good thing about making sure you're doing this earlier too is because it really is a habit. And if you get used to spending an extra $250 or an extra $500 a month, you know, on a car, you start making commitments like maybe now you have a car payment for a fancy car, or maybe you're just used to eating out and that's part of your lifestyle. Like you've kind of factored it in like to your routine and how you work. It's going to be a lot harder to like cut that out and then use it towards investing. So like if you have points in your career where you get a raise or you start, start a new job where you're making a lot more money, it's kind of good out of the gate to just at least take some of that money and start automatically putting it into an investment account for retirement and automatically investing that money into the stock market, because then it doesn't feel like you're taking a hit to your lifestyle or the things that you're used to. It's just you never put your hands on the money basically. So all of a sudden you just have more money that you're saving towards retirement. So yeah, I mean you can anyway. There's just a lot of different ways to approach this. I'd like to do another similar video on like the other end of this, which is if you're willing to put in more money, how much earlier could you retire? But I think that's a long enough video that I'll just make it a separate topic. But anyway, guys, hope this was really helpful. If you like this video, just make sure to hit that like button and comment, subscribe. All that really just helps out the channel. Just hitting the like button makes a big difference for the algorithm. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.